The Sculptor and the Silent Tape. In a chilly late November night, Ethan, a sculptor past his early 40s, sat alone in his makeshift studio, a dimly lit basement space in an old forgotten industrial building in downtown LA. Single weak lamp cast harsh shadows over a half-finished marble sculpture. A woman holding a lotus flower. Ethan was an artist fighting exhaustion and crushing debt. His last major sale had been nearly 2 years ago. He stared at the stone, his hands refusing to continue, feeling as if the marble itself was rejecting his touch. Suddenly, the power grid flickered and died, plunging the room into absolute darkness, save for a sliver of pale moonlight slicing through the single basement window. Ethan sighed, reaching for a match to light a candle, when he heard a strange sound, a soft, almost ethereal rustling coming from the corner where he kept discarded wood scraps. It wasn't the scuttling of a rat. It sounded more like a faint, unintelligible whisper. Hesitantly, curiosity overriding his fear, Ethan moved toward the sound. He pulled back a drop cloth covering the pile of junk wood to reveal a heavy, tarnished metal lockbox he had never seen before. It was secured by an odd, antique padlock. Ethan dragged the box to his workbench. It was surprisingly heavy. He grabbed an old blunt chisel and began the violent work of prying the lock open. With a final, loud screech, the lock snapped. Ethan cautiously lifted the lid. Inside, there was no gold or jewelry, but something far more perplexing. An ancient reel-to-reel tape recorder and a single cassette tape. Scrawled on the label in fading ink was the title, Lost Time. Ethan flipped the switch. The tape began to turn, sputtering static for a moment before a soft, almost soothing voice, that of an elderly woman, began to speak. She wasn't discussing treasure or secrets, but was instead describing, with uncanny precision, the exact steps needed to complete his Woman in the Lotus sculpture. She detailed the precise tilt of the head, the exact depth of the finger carvings, and even a subtle, hidden flaw in the marble that Ethan needed to exploit to turn it into a compositional strength. A shiver ran down Ethan's spine. He paused the tape and rushed back to his sculpture, following the vocal instructions meticulously. When the voice directed him to the hidden imperfection, Ethan ran his fingers over the marble and discovered a minuscule hairline crack he had totally missed. He expertly worked the flaw into the design, integrating it into the texture of the flower in a stroke of sheer genius. By the next morning, Ethan was finished. The result was breathtaking. The sculpture wasn't just a piece of art. It felt alive, imbued with a spirit he had never managed to capture before. Days later, he exhibited the piece at a small gallery show. He was stunned when it sold instantly to a renowned collector for an unprecedented price, and critics hailed the arrival of a new level of mastery in his work. Recharged and full of renewed vigor, Ethan returned to his studio in the metal box. He lifted it. It was now noticeably lighter. He looked at the tape and recorder, smiling. He realized the true treasure was the guidance it provided. Looking around his studio, now brightly lit thanks to his recently paid electric bill, he noticed the metal box had shifted slightly. He opened it one last time. It was completely empty except for a single slip of paper bearing a final inscription: "Never stop listening." Ethan carefully tucked the note into his wallet, closed up the studio, and started searching for his next block of marble, confident that true inspiration came not from outside, but from having the faith to pay attention. He just kept an eye on the darker corners, wondering when and where the whisper might return.